So this is how I went from a 146 half marathon to a 127 half marathon. To give a little bit of background, I did not run in college. I did not run in high school. I say run like I was on a team or anything. I didn't do that. I recently got into running because I started reading books about running. So I read David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me book, and it kind of inspired me to run, even though that's really not the purpose of the book. But nevertheless, it did. And I was okay at sports growing up. I played baseball the majority of my life. I was not good enough to make the high school team. I played basketball in middle school. I made the team in middle school, didn't make it in 8th grade. I wrestled. I did soccer, did not play on a team or anything, just kind of recreationally. I did fishing in high school, but running was kind of something that I would do just whenever I felt like it. I would just go out and run a mile or two or whatever. So like I said, my first race was October 2022. My first half marathon, Oktoberfest, Asheville, North Carolina, October in 2022, ran at 1:45:43. For my first half marathon in Asheville, I signed up shortly after reading David's book. The course was around, I think, like 400 elevation gain, 400 feet of elevation gain. Wasn't too bad. There was one hill I know it had like at least a 6% incline all the way up, and then right after that it just came all the way back down. I didn't have a plan. I would just kind of increase my long runs. Like I did like a 6-mile long run, then a 7-mile, then an 8-mile over the course of the training period. Nothing too crazy. I didn't know anything about nutrition, so I just took the water that they had on the course, and I had Nerd Clusters as my carb nutrition, so I really didn't have a clue what I was doing. The only goal that I had set for this race was just to go under 2 hours, and to come in at like a 1:47 was pretty, it's pretty cool. I thought I would have a kick at the end, like just a sprint, and I was drained. It was a good race. They had pretty normal. They had a beer afterwards if you wanted to pick it up or whatever, but I can never do that. Greenville half marathon, February 2023, 1:52:36. The Greenville half in February of 2023, I ran this race as a pacing partner. I paced my wife's friend at the time, and all her goal is just to do it under 2 hours, which is a 9:09 pace. And we came in like around 1:53. It was on the Swamp Rabbit Trail in Greenville, South Carolina. They had the same race over and over again. They have the same race route, kind of. It's very similar. It's the exact same race route for the most part as this year. You just kind of run up the Swamp Rabbit Trail. Pacing a sub 2 was pretty neat because I knew I could do it pretty easily. But it is cool to kind of get other people involved in running and see where they can take them. I think that is still her fastest half marathon. So I think that pacing needs to be a little bit more appreciated. It's definitely nice that you always have somebody running with you at all time to keep you on pace. I think that is just if every race was like that, people would PR every day. We're in the Cooper River Bridge Run in Charleston, South Carolina, April 2023, 42:20. We went out and did the Charleston Cooper River Bridge Run, which is a 10K, and it was kind of my first realization of Boston was starting to become a goal. So if I could get into Boston, that would just, that's like that. I think that's when I decided I want to do this, and I'm gonna try to run at that pace. So I had the goal of running this 10K, which has, you run across the bridge, which is pretty, I think it's like 4% incline up and down, but it's a long bridge. It's like a 5K on the bridge by itself. So I made the goal to run a 6:50 pace for this race, which is like a 42:12 or something, and I came up a little short, but I will say that was the best race that I've ever done, even though it was a 10K. The expo was really cool. It's really nice. They had a ton of vendors, a lot of useful stuff. I know like Tide was a major sponsor, so they were handing out Tide pods. They had free like AHAs, like you could get like a big old 12 count of AHAs, which was really cool. Ice cream, like there was an ice cream vendor, like they were handing out popsicles and stuff. Like that expo has been the most professional and one that I enjoyed the most. Like a 6:53, 6:55 pace or whatever. And immediately after I crossed the finish line, I immediately vomited. I didn't take any gels. I ran, I think, in my Takumi Sen 8s, or Takumi Sen 8s, which is, you know, like a 5K, 10K shoe. So I was starting to become aware of carbon plated shoes and the importance of them. So, but yeah, this was the race that I wanted to run with the goal of going to Boston. Mountains to Main Street half marathon, May 2023, 1:30:47. So shortly after the Cooper River Bridge run in May of 2023, we signed up for another half marathon. It's pretty much the exact same course as the Greenville Swamp Rabbit half in February that I did, except they run like through a neighborhood to start out. Up until this time, I still have my Apple Watch recording all my runs. Like I didn't know anything about Garmin, I didn't know anything about Coros or any of the other little brands that, you know, provide GPS tracking very well. So this race, I think, underestimated the distance on my Apple Watch, which is funny. I went out too fast for this race, and I think because the hills were just ridiculous in this neighborhood that you first started out. I think I ran like a 6 something, like a 6:0, like a lower than a 6:10 mile for the first mile, and just couldn't hang on. I've never been able to negative split anything in my life, so I just kind of knew that it was just gonna be a struggle. I remember like wanting to really quit like around mile 10 after this race, but I came in at 1:30:37 for this half marathon. And about 2 weeks after this race, I had a weird pain in my like my metatarsals. It was it would hurt me like cutting grass, like it would hurt. I didn't go to a physical therapist or anything. I thought, well, there was a physical therapist at like a group run that I talked to, and I just kind of rested and recovered, and it kind of like lingered for a little bit, but I was able to continue running. I didn't run in those shoes anymore, so I wore the New Balance SC3 Elites again, or for the first time actually. I didn't wear them. I had the trainers as well, and I was finding that my foot would hurt more when I would wear the trainers than it would for the actual shoe. So I actually gave the trainer shoes away, even though I really liked them. But yeah, so 1:30:47. My first full marathon. I'm bound for Boston, or so I thought. September 2023, 3 hours, 37 minutes, and 16 seconds. So for the Bound to Boston, my wife bought me this marathon for my first marathon. I had signed up for the Honolulu Marathon that would have been in December 2023. I signed up for that way back in like February of 2023. But my wife thought that I could qualify for Boston if I wanted to. The cutoff for Boston, I think, is like September 30th or something, and this race was like September 4th, so it was one of the last kind of few that you could do to run to Boston the next year. My wife bought me this marathon. It was in Johns Creek in Atlanta, or not really Atlanta, but kind of outside of Atlanta. It was a 1 mile loop. They said it was only 14 feet of elevation gain, but it kind of like curved down a hill and then you ran right back up it, so not really. This is my first race with a Coros. I got the Coros like in July of 2023, so I used my Coros to kind of track it. I never ran a mile faster than like a 7:07 pace. I was thinking I could negative split it, but like I said, I've never been able to do that, so kind of stupid. Going back to the hotel, we stayed in a hotel. The air conditioner did not work. It was 70-something degrees, 77 degrees or something in our hotel room. I didn't sleep at all really, I think maybe 4 hours. I tried to eat a bagel that morning and I couldn't heat it up, and I have to heat up the bagels and put butter on it, and we didn't have a microwave in our room, so. Lesson learned was don't stay in a crappy hotel. Yeah, just awful. Like I said, I didn't run a quicker mile than like a 7 something. I got sick around mile 12 or mile 13 or in between, whatever. So I think I came through the halfway mark at like 135, and then the last half I like ran like a 202. I walked a lot the second half. I knew that there was no way it was gonna happen. I got second in my age group because there was only like 8 people in the age group. I would never do this race again. The race photos were terrible. Like, they're blurry. Like, every single person has like blurry race photos. Also, I only have one photo from that race, and it was a 26-mile loop. So like, they could have had 26 times for me to go around, but they got one photo of me, which was just so stupid. Yeah, I would never do this race again. This was the first race that I tried to implement a training plan for the races. So Adidas Running has training plans for marathons specifically that I signed up for, and the fastest time that they had for a plan was a 3:30. So I thought the entire time that I could do the 3:30 plan and kind of just subtract 30 seconds from the paces that they told me to run throughout the race or throughout the training block. I mean, they couldn't even get me to 3:30. No, that's mainly my fault. But I used the training plan and I didn't really get a whole lot out of it. I didn't run a mile faster than like a 9-minute per pace on any of my long runs. So like, I never hit marathon pace. And I think that this stressed to me that to get faster, you have to run fast. After this Bound to Boston race is when I started implementing workouts specific for the races that I was training for. The next race that I knew that I was going to do was going to be a 5K. So then I started implementing specific track workouts implemented to get faster at the 5K. In the description, I've created a Google Doc file that I will add to whenever I can find a new workout that I enjoyed. These workouts are specific for the 5K, 10K, half marathon, and marathon distance. A lot of these workouts I'm not making up. I'm grabbing from like Nick Bare, Flowbird Runs, Philly Bowden, Kafuzi, other run specific YouTubers that have used these training workouts, because I think that you need to do at least one of these a week. I think that it's been proven that if you run a faster mile, then you'll run a faster 5K. If you get your mile to be faster, then you know it correlates with everything else. So I knew that my next race was going to be a 5K, so I started implementing faster 5Ks in the hope that it would carry over to the half marathon and marathon distance. My second full marathon, December 2023 Honolulu Marathon, 4 hours, 38 minutes, and 36 seconds. The next race I did was the Honolulu Marathon in December of 2023. I did not run for 2 weeks after the race in September, the Bound to Boston one. I didn't run for 2 weeks. It was exactly 16 weeks from that day of that race to Honolulu Marathon. So I only had 14 weeks to train. I realized around like week 8 into the block that I didn't really look at the weather. And I think it was like the weather was like 80 degrees is what it was going to be like on race day. Like it was going to be like 74 in the morning and it was going to be 80 with like an 80% chance of humidity or whatever. So I kind of just told my wife's friend, that the same one I paced back in February, that I would just run with her. So I ended up pacing her for this marathon. She had a goal of getting under 5 hours. I think we came in at like 4 hours and 40 minutes or something for her. I left at her after mile 25. I just went ahead and went down. I kind of use this race as like just to go through the motions of the gels and stuff and the nutrition that I would take. So I would take like a gel at, every 4 miles, had water throughout the course that I would utilize. It was just kind of like a learning experience, like kind of like a training long run. But like I said, I did leave her on the mile 25 and then I ran as fast as I could to the finish line. So I was just happy that I think I kept like a 6:30 pace or whatever after running 25 miles. I think it was just kind of like a motivational booster at that point, but I would not do this race again either. The expo was trash. getting out to Hawaii from where we are in South Carolina is just so difficult and draining. Hawaii is the most expensive place I've ever been to on this planet, so I don't think I would ever run this race ever again. If I did, it would have to be in like 30 years or something, because it's just not worth it, in my opinion. My most recent half marathon, Greenville Half, February 2024, I ran a 1 hour, 27 minute half marathon, 6:39 pace. So we get to the Greenville Half 2024. I drove myself to the start line. I warmed up for 10 minutes. I packed 3 gels. I did the applesauce. Yeah, so I did the Spring Energy Awesome Sauce gels. I took one at mile 3.9. Oh, let me back up. They had pacers. They also had an elite corral this year. I think it was the first year that they've done that. I don't know what you had to run to be in this said elite corral. I put my estimated time to finish at like a 125, and yeah, I didn't get into it, so I don't know how fast these guys were running. But it was a pretty stacked field, so they did have a pacer, a 130 pacer. And when the start went off for my corral, which was 3 minutes after said elite corral, I saw the 130 pacer early on in the mix-up within the first half mile, and I was like, I know I just have to pass him to get going, because I don't know what he was running, but I knew I wanted to PR, and my PR would have been like 130. So I was like, I just need to put him in my rear view and never see him ever again, and that's what happened. So I took a gel at mile 3.9. The first like 4 or 5 miles are kind of rolling hills. Wasn't too bad. After that, you get onto the Swamp Rabbit, and I think as soon as I got onto the Swamp Rabbit is when I busted out my first gel, like I said, around 3.9. The pack thinned out. There was maybe, at this point, maybe like 15 runners that were kind of nearby, running with us around like a 6:30. I think my first couple miles was like a 6:30 something pace. Using, let me go to my watch. So for my watch, I decided to kind of set a window of pace that I wanted to run at. So my watch would alert me if I was running faster than 6:20, because I had messed up in a half marathon before and ran too fast the first mile. So I had a pace like window set at like 6:20 to 6:40. So my watch would alert me if I ran faster than 6:20 and too slow at 6:40. So I always kind of knew what window I was going to be in, but this caused my Coros not to have my splits, but my Strava has my splits, and I'll post them somewhere up here while I'm going through this. But yeah, I think I hit like 6:33, 6:33, 6:33, 6:35, something like that for the first couple miles. I think my fastest mile was mile 7, which was the biggest net elevation decline. So I think it was like a big hill that just dropped down. I ran that one at 6:27. And then in the second half of the race, it's pretty much flat, but I just couldn't hang on because I can't negative split. I just kind of hung on for dear life. I didn't really feel like I was giving up, but in the second half of the race, the pack thinned to the point where it was like I was maybe running with one person, and I could see one person and then maybe see 3 other people. So it had really thinned out by that point. It's always difficult to run kind of by yourself, keeping pace. So the watch helped with that, but it kept alerting me like, you're running too slow, whatever. Mile 10, I did have a water bottle that I was using throughout the race. I used a liquid IV strawberry flavored that I made into a 36 ounce, and then I poured it into my Nathan's running 12 ounce that I used. I ran out of water around like mile 10, and I knew that there was going to be one more water station at mile 12. After I took the second gel, I kind of finished a lot of the water. I took the second gel around mile 8. I began to sip on another Spring Energy gel around mile, I want to say I opened it up at like a mile 11. I took half of it, so I took 2.5 gels in total. I got the Gatorade at mile 12 and saw somebody throw up immediately, and just decided that I should just hang on came around the corner and I finished with a 127 on the dot. It's like a 127.00.06 or something. So I'm taking it as a 127 chip time. My A goal was a 125 because that's the series that we're in currently. My next shot at a 125 is probably going to be the Mountains to Main Street marathon or half marathon that is in May. I am not currently signed up, but I am interested to look at the route and to see if they changed it within the first couple of neighborhoods that they had, because I don't really want to run those hills in those neighborhoods. They were awful. We shall see. You know, the goal is still to break 125. I came in at 127, which was a 6:38, 6:39 pace. To get to 125, I'd have to shave off 8 seconds a mile, I think is what it is. I think it's definitely doable, but I'm going to still kind of train. Specifically, I want to try to do at least one half marathon workout a week, focusing on speed, and hopefully it prepares me to get there. I don't have a training plan specifically for a half marathon, but for my next marathon is going to be in Chicago, where I want to run sub 3 and qualify for Boston if I don't get buffered out. So that's the plan. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, like and subscribe, comment some of your favorite workouts that you think I should add to my Google Doc. Thanks.